This is Otaku Station, broadcasting anime analysis to anyone who will listen. We have a basement archive full of an ever-growing collection of anime media. We dig deep into the great anime of the past to give you the context you need to fully appreciate the best this medium has to offer. Let's jam. All right, welcome to the broadcast. I hope you're having a good day wherever you happen to be right now. This is Otaku Station, where today we'll be talking about the second episode of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. I think I fully recovered from that hack last week. Also, I've got some folks arriving today at the tower with something a little special, and more on that later. For now, let's head to the research room to look at how Standalone Complex adapts or doesn't adapt the manga it's based on. Alright, let's look at Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex as an adaptation. And I should say, every adaptation, I believe, does need to adapt its material. TV series is not a manga, and especially when the manga is so short relative to the series in this case. The manga is a single volume, so there's no way you can just adapt that panel by panel. So let's look at the manga. The first half, roughly, of the manga is basically an episodic police procedural. The members of Section 9 deal with a new mission in every chapter, more or less, and so it is just mission, nothing really connecting any of those missions together other than learning more about Section 9 and the world they're in. The second half introduces the Puppet Master storyline and really focuses on that, and that's really everything of the last half of the manga. The original movie from 1995 focuses on that Puppet Master storyline, and really that's its plot, really, while also being much heavier in tone than the manga. The police procedural stuff is a little more co-workers hanging out doing their thing, obviously with a little more death involved, but it's not as heavy as the movie is. Standalone Complex takes that same relatively lighter police procedural tone of the manga, but doesn't adapt the stories of the manga directly. The first half police procedural, they don't reuse any of those stories directly, instead writing original stories for their episodes, with a little inspiration from the manga here and there. Standalone Complex later introduces a larger plot arc that then reappears multiple times over the course of the seasons. You kind of keep moving back and forth between that big plot arc and standalone episodes. This is a smart move because the structure of an episodic police procedural kind of gives you permission to tell more police procedural stories, right? You don't have to be bound to this big, long, epic story that's really not as appropriate for this elite special forces kind of a unit where they're having to deal with smaller problems, right? That it should be their bread and butter because of the nature of their group. So in general, it's closer to the manga in terms of showcasing everyone in Section 9 and using the tachikoma, though they're called fuchikoma in the manga. That had to be readapted because they were used in the movie. It's complicated. But basically, they brought those back as a standard part of Section 9's kit for Standalone Complex, which I think adds a lot to the TV series. So again, a little closer to the manga than to the movie, which I think makes a lot of sense. It also means the movie is, and the Puppet Master storyline is not a part of Standalone Complex. That just does not happen in this universe, which allows them to, not have to deal with that aspect of the Major and her having this other personality inside her. That's just a whole other thing. So that is basically the TV series, and I hope that's helpful. Welcome back. I hope you found that useful. Quick update. So my visitors have arrived. They're downstairs setting up. You may remember Sarah, who was helping out with the garden at the base of the tower. That's going well, by the way. Anyway, she was talking to some scavengers, and they've brought a bunch of manga. Basically, they found a cache of manga in an abandoned house, and it's a couple of bookcases worth of manga. I definitely want to talk about some of these, later on when we get things settled in. So they're downstairs rearranging the cafe a little bit, setting up bookcases, and we'll have the start of a manga cafe down there. Anyway, let's start analyzing episode 2 of Ghost in the Shell. Before that, a few things to watch out for. First off, the pacing of the episode, how it's setting up a problem, developing it, and then the conclusion and kind of payoff. Also, note the kind of opacity of technology in this world. How much people do and don't know about a particular machine and what it's capable of, and etc. Kind of interesting in this episode. Anyway, let's get John and Steve on the line.
She dented the roof there.
Oh yeah, she did.
You're right, she did.
Interesting. So the intro acknowledges the Major's weight, whereas the first episode had her just land without any sort of impact damage.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
For the intro, we get a scene of the apartment housing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that feel like not... Does this feel like lower income housing to you? Because it does to me. Like this is like just...
The projects.
We have to put the people... Yeah, the projects. We have to put the people somewhere. Because we know what happens in this world. That there was a world war. Nuclear world war. So this is kind of one of those things where it's just like, okay, we're getting parts of her history in this. So I just... It occurs to me that maybe she was just like, oh yeah, I grew up in low income.
Probably, yeah.
No.
This is actually reminiscent, for those familiar with other works, of a different Mamoru Oshii film. This is similar to the beginning of Steve.
Steve.
I'm blanking on it.
The beginning of the first Pat Labor movie. This is how it starts.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It is. Oh God. Yes.
Yep. So different plot, but
different plot, but still the same. Oh my God, I totally forgot about that. It is.
Yep.
Did we watch the Pat Labor movie that I
Nope.
would have known?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
Oh God, I didn't even put those together. You're so right.
So they're kind of, playing around with that now.
So it seems like they use him more as even though in the first episode he was actually in on the sniping with the geishas, but it sounds like everybody else is deployed because they're kind of more advanced physically than Koga is, and that he go talk to the chief and find out what's happening, because it's like, don't send the fleshy boy into the battle zone.
Yeah, and it's one of the interesting things is how they specialize who does what.
Yeah.
Because sometimes Togusa absolutely should be the one to go in. Sometimes he absolutely should not. So.
Yeah.
And fighting a tank, it sounds like this is the not situation.
Yeah. Exactly. And it should be pointed out, what is this episode doing? Introducing us to the Tachikomas. It's showing, okay, it's just nothing but farmland, empty land around here, so we can just deploy tanks with abandon, so we can really see what these things can do. I have to call out just a little animation sort of production thing here. The person talking is the person just out of shot. And so just a little way of saving money is the person we just heard is the person who finishes talking just as the camera gets to them, so you don't have to animate their lip flaps.
Gotcha.
Right? And obviously in a production this you don't have to, but it's just a little trick that comes up in anime a lot. What an interesting shot. This sort of extreme long distance shot, everything's in the same thing, bit of the haze of the heat.
This reminds me of driving in Iowa.
Yeah. But also contrasting kind of the order and structure of this operation. Right? Everything is very controlled, everything is in straight lines, implying it will not be for very long.
But I like the way that they've made the road the more sinuous element to it,
True.
because you've got truck in the front square, cop cars on the side are all lined up, everything's framed very centrally, but the road is the fluid element that sort of snakes through that image.
Yep.
You
That is
fleshy
nicely
people get off the
animated.
road.
Yep. I also just like the sort of cinema language here, where it just comes over the top of the ridge and stops, kind of threatening, almost like the gunslinger at the edge of town. And then they decide what to do. Everyone starts moving out of the way, and then it slowly starts moving forward again, just building that dread. And also, again, it just somebody had to draw all that, like the foliage and the light and all that stuff. Gosh.
It also, in that, I think, Brent, but to your point, it adds the questionable element. We've already seen somebody at the, it just goes nuts and blows up tanks.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen somebody at the facility, but is this really what you wanted? You know what I mean? And that stop is also a consideration.
Yeah,
where it's
great
like,
point.
what more is going on? This isn't just an autonomous machine that went nuts.
Mm-hmm.
It stopped, had a moment to consider, and then decided something to go forward. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, great point. Well, that's the guy, looks like.
Yeah.
Yep. So he's paying attention to the time?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And Togusa recognizes that immediately.
Yes. Boy, is that a Japanese thing or what?
Mm.
The guy can claim that he did not give the
Right, yeah.
documents
Just
over.
staring at the wall.
Yeah.
Good night. Did the sniper rifle get bigger?
He uses various guns. Yeah.
Holy crap.
I also love that they're bolting it down.
Yeah. I think it's like a 20 millimeter cannon.
Good.
Well, they are going up against the tank. Like it needs to. Yeah.
That's absolutely correct, but holy crap. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. So, a few things to call out here. A, he's aiming at the legs.
Right.
So, he knows he's not going to punch through the main armor. He's just trying to disable it. But also, he fires and it dodges. Oof.
And he's linked up to a satellite.
Yeah.
To help him, deal with all the speed, the range, and all that.
Yep. Mm.
I also love the animation of the dodge, but also the do it, the major, and everybody else in the Tachikoma hits the brakes and they dive when they break. I'm like, nicely done. Somebody was studying the kinetic motion. Very good.
Yep, exactly. Do you know who was animating them? Those Tachikoma?
No.
The man who would go on to found the studio that animated Land of the Lustrous and Beastars.
Really?
That is that guy. He was a big into CGI. They essentially gave him the Tachikomas to animate. This was his baby, and obviously other folks worked on it as well. But he was the central animator for the Tachikomas. And after that, he was like, I think we're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Land of the Lustrous and Beastars, holy crap, that was fantastically fluid motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is where he was figuring all that out. And to that point, like, there's an impressive amount of personality to the Tachikomas, given how hard body they are. It's really just the arms moving, and then like them bouncing up and down is all he has. We've already seen them like salute. We've seen them bounce around. They've seen like he gets a lot out of them.
Yeah. And I'm sure merchandising got great plushies out of them. Too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the only cute thing in the show.
Exactly. It's true. I also like this shot.
Yes.
Because you get just the shocked expression with the magnified eye. It's just clever use.
I like that maneuver too. The flip up and flip back down. Brilliant.
Wow. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Fisheye.
Fisheye lens. Which, again, this is not special effects. Somebody had to animate literally all of those lines moving. Very cool.
It's not CGI.
Nope.
It's somebody drawing fisheye.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
So, that's what's going on. Is that it is seeing that same feed, and so knows as soon as he's going to shoot and can dodge out of the way.
One of the things that I've always thought about when they're in this particular episode, when we're introduced to Tachikomas and we're introduced to the fact that they can be inside of a sentient Tachikoma and actually direct it. Notice how they do the fisheye, the wide things with Bato and the Major. and to give you the idea that you are in a cramped space.
Yeah.
You know,
Great point.
they're not like, you know, in this big tank where they have movement. They're in a little tiny area, so like any movement has to be exaggerated to give you an idea of like being hemmed inside.
You're absolutely right. Like, you get the sense that they can't move. You know, that they are just kind of locked into this position. Yeah. One of the things they're pointing out here is to our earlier points about Section 9. In Episode 1, they had clear goals, clear objectives to do. Now we're moving into a situation where no one knows what this tank is supposed to do. Section 9 has to make the decision on the ground how to deal with this, how to take it down, while keeping in mind all the political ramifications of what's going on.
Yeah.
Not that that impacts them directly, but like, if it goes one way, they have to do one thing, something else, they have to do something else.
Well, it's interesting that the Major's talking about, like, everybody's going to deny responsibility. So what's the implication there? If the media is watching you guys in the Tachikomas pursuing this, and everybody else says it's not our fault, you're going to get blamed for
Right.
whatever the outcome is.
Exactly right.
And it's like, oh, that's the political fallout part of this.
Yeah.
Aramaki's ability to get to the point is unparalleled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just bring people back to, here's the actual problem. That's a lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is absolutely a suspect.
Yeah.
We think you tampered with it. So what did you do?
You were the last person, but we're not going to do anything.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
You're fine. Yeah. It'll be all okay.
You were the last
And
person.
time
seen
has
near the
passed,
tank.
but he has not referenced back to the clock
True.
yet.
Move out of
Yeah.
way.
So what they're doing here is, so Major saying, let's figure out where it's going. Point being, it is heading in a direction. If someone tries to stop it, what does it do?
Right.
You know, what is its reaction to direct, immediate, like right in front of it, sort of something?
In that shot, when they're
Yeah.
taking this one, yeah, right there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You see how one's ripped and the other one's got a pin and still the
Yep.
loop is.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what that's done,
True.
because it doesn't
Good point.
seem it affected the mobility of the unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at least now we can see that was such minimal damage.
Yeah.
That's just terrible to hear them scream.
Yeah. Yeah. So, let's figure out the consequences here.
Not really, but okay.
You just punched a 12-year-old girl in the face with machine gun fire. Come on, this is terrible.
There's a person in there, presumably.
In the back pod.
Right. So their point is that much fire can take out a Tachikoma, but the pilot will survive.
Thank goodness, because
Yeah.
wow.
And also
Yeah.
Tachikoma's okay. Like, you know, the personality is not affected. It's just like, oops,
Right.
uh-oh.
Yay!
Well, and actually, to that point,
More time in the lab.
yeah, he's so lucky he broke down. Their
They're
point
using
is,
pronouns.
yeah, pronouns. Also, we don't care if we break down. You know, we get beat up, banged up, whatever. They just bring us in and fix us up. So there's no sense of mortality or real danger for the Tachikoma.
Yeah.
Which is
I was-
probably really good.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, something they no spoilers, but they deal with later on is that these are intelligences specifically designed for this purpose. You know, it's not just some generic off-the-shelf software. So they know the risks, they know what's going on, they know how to negotiate what's going on.
Was that
Else-
also supposed to kind of indicate that it doesn't become an operational barrier to
Right.
consider your own mortality?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that would be the
Right.
implication. Is you do not want a gun that's afraid to pull its own trigger.
Right.
Right.
So, hooray, they broke down. That's fine.
Yep.
They're just going to go back to do the analysis.
And they see the benefit of going, wow, they get to look at him again.
Yeah.
Right, maybe he'll be better. I don't know.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, it's
That's a
just
nice
like
way to address the mortality of their situation.
But the interesting thing is that they give them enough personality and enough parameters to, when the major gives an order, they have the ability to think on their own to execute those orders. So it's not like it's not like generative AI where you have to explain every single thing
Yeah.
to get what you want. They can just give the order and they
Mm-hmm.
go, "Oh, okay, this is what I need to do."
Yeah. I'll also point out, I think I was wrong. I think it's just the Major and Bato in the two head touch coma.
Yes.
I don't think I think the rest are unmanned. They're just there as fire support. So I was probably wrong on that one.
Yeah, because I think we had this sniper team, 2-man sniper team,
Yeah.
2-man doing the interrogation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's
Yeah.
just Bato and the Major, and the others are standalone.
Ah. Mhm. I also just like this detail of the
Yeah.
office workers watching the the chase. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun little thing. And actually, to that point, it's a little hard to see. They have a keyboard with a mouse and a mouse pad.
Oh, Son did it.
You know, and they're just very normal office environment. They're not using VR headsets or anything. And to our earlier point, just the little bits of people watching the average person. I like the grounding that this has. In so many anime series, when you see the heroes acting, they're in this bubble where there's no one else around, and there's just this sense of these are the folks we're trying to protect.
Yeah, it does give you a sense of urgency when you're just like, it's going through a city.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it has live ammunition, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff's gonna go down, and you've got rando people in the battle area. Like,
Yeah. Can you imagine being the mayor of that town and just being told, by the way, this is happening right now, and then your
Right.
police force can't do anything about it, so just sit back and enjoy the ride? Oh, God.
And in case folks are wondering, why hasn't it been evacuated yet? This is a
There's no
fast
time.
tank. There's no tank. There's no time. They don't know where it's going, so they can't just say, everyone leave in, the entire city in 15 minutes.
and we know that the media blackout already dropped because they had that sort of on station drone that was up, and when it flew away, you saw the 3 news helicopters sort of heading towards the issue. So it is a developing story, as they would say. Wow.
Arabaki's just going, twisting that knife a little bit more. You boys done screwed up.
But you see how they're establishing the stakes of this world as well. That there's no ultimate weapon here. Everything has a countermeasure to something else. If you can pay enough and do enough research, something's going to be able to get in the way of what you're trying to do.
Right.
Love the detail of the sort of drifting.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So
Tracks of land.
yeah. Besides all the darkness, so Aramaki knows who runs the police bureau in that section of the city, just off the top of his head. Wow.
Imagine if you could get into his BlackBerry or his Rolodex.
Yeah.
Wow.
No kidding.
But can you necessarily guarantee hostile intent?
Good point.
The tank has not said anything.
Right.
It's just doing its thing.
Absolutely. And that's so much I think of Ghost in the Shell is reading the situation.
Yeah.
Doing the best you can with what you know.
Yeah. And I love the fact there's a model of the tank on the altar with
Yeah.
this picture.
Which is presumably the model that was in his hand we saw earlier on the floor.
Now we have an evacuation because we have a destination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I also appreciate, to our earlier point, them standing up and walking away without us seeing their faces, so we don't know what they're thinking right now.
Yeah.
Is this guilt on their face? Is it something else?
It's also an interestingly framed thing going on here where it's like we're just focused right smack dab on the shrine to the left and parents to the right, and then some board
It's the television.
in the middle.
TV,
Is
the
that a
TV.
TV?
That's
Yeah.
that's a television.
Yeah, it's like this is very interesting framing. Just all what's going on in here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. With the incense going up.
Yeah.
Well, not concerned about property damage.
No.
Apparently not.
Um,
And in this future, Brent, have you noticed that the city still sits along the valley
yeah,
bottoms?
it's a great point. Yep.
Yeah.
That the hillsides are still not climbed with buildings? How very Japanese.
So true. Getting back to our other point about animation, that's a 2D background. The artist had to model the movement of that CGI model over that curve so it would look correct on a 2D image. That's effort.
Aramaki is good at just putting the pressure on. Just
Yeah.
this whole time he's been in that office, he's just been hitting him with, well, you're not telling me this, you're not doing that, till finally the guy snaps. Here you go. Here's all the information.
Yep. An interesting note that it hasn't tried to turn around to take them out.
Yeah. That we know the gun turret on the tail can do exactly that. It can aim around if it wants to.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Is this
it's like a 105?
Yeah.
Is this a callback to the first movie, in a sense?
Yes.
Right? She wants to jump in to hack into it, and Bato's like, no, bad idea.
Even the music is reminiscent of the movie.
Yeah, and definitely doing Kenji Kawai style music. So let's let's just call out they're very much referencing the first movie here.
Yeah. I think
Actually,
for a tank, you'd have anti-personnel, like an active electrified shell or something that would just light up to keep people from jumping on board.
But note what it did here. Note what it's doing. It didn't fire at her. It's trying to brush her off.
Yeah.
Interesting.
SWAT at her, if you will.
Yeah. I'll also point out it may have anti-personnel defenses that are useless against someone of the Major's caliber. Right. Where whatever she can do, she's neutralizing all that.
Of course, the thing also still shows incredible restraint, because when it's swatting at the Major, the gun barrel is aimed right at Bono. There is a moment where I honestly was like, oh, dude.
Yep. And now we have our next option.
Ishikawa. So when the president gave the information, that was the thing that they said would stop the tank. That's where they got that from.
To immobilize its movement.
Yeah. Also, Aramaki is actually on the chopper.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. On the front line.
And he looks fairly happy to be there.
Yeah, he does. It's the happiest I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
And to be clear, it's still an active weapon, right?
Yeah.
So regardless of whether it's stopped or not, it could still try to do something more dangerous, so they have to stop it.
Yeah, they've not immobilized the cannon on the tail, just the legs.
Yep. And it could break out of it too,
Yeah.
Shall we call out the anime jump?
Yep.
Yeah.
30 feet in the air from a standstill. And here's where the TV series is establishing its own tone.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a message you would have gotten out of the 1985 movie, right?
Right.
This sense of humanity, of supporting your parents, supporting your, the life that you had, and how precious that was, and how he's trying to connect with that.
Yeah. That episode always makes me verklempt.
Yeah, same here.
It had a lot of heart.
Exactly. At least half because of Yoko Kanno's music. Just the way she does that. And it should be pointed out that is a almost emotionally manipulative piece of music there, with just the strings just going as hard as they can, these wailing strings. But yeah.
He wasn't a complete jerk. He was just okay.
He just wanted to be with his parents.
Ma, look at me. I've done the thing.
Yep.
Yeah. But I always thought that was a great touch of using the real pictures, and I've always wondered, because I've never actually looked to see who those pictures were of, like are they part of the production crew or whatever.
Yeah.
But having those pictures and just having that flash, and just as flashes of memory, and the Major being surprised by that. And that's another thing that in the movie we talk about how everything is rote, everything is the same, and everything, there's the danger of semi-immortality is sameness of the same thing over and over again. And here we have the Major being very surprised by this thing that's happening to her.
Yeah.
As she's connecting with an actual brain, and then we're realizing that is his ghost, and she's connecting with it, and she doesn't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah, we know what that is. She does not.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
right.
You know, and both her and Bato are dismiss it basically at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Well,
interesting.
to run the kill command, one presumes that they are trained in it, but I doubt they are trained with a live brain. You know what I
True.
mean? So
Yeah.
it's like doing the thing where you're like, okay, I can short this out if I just jack in. It's like
Yeah.
training is a different thing, like
Mm-hmm.
like CPR dummy. You know how to do the thing, but it's a totally different thing when you have somebody who is in extremis and you're the one with their life in your hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So for her, this must have been like a whoa, as as his ghost passed by her.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
ee.
And this scene also sets up a very important relationship, a notice of relationship, and I don't mean romantic necessarily,
Yeah.
but just a relationship between the Major and Bato.
Yep.
Like they're in sync. She's falling down. There's no communication as to what she's
Yep.
trying to do. He understands, grabs, does the thing, and then so that she can do the thing.
Yeah.
So they're in tandem. They know. Speaking to training, actually, John.
Great point.
This is them connecting on no digital level, no nothing.
Yeah.
This is what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a great point. They are simpatico as people.
Yeah.
You know, they can kind of almost read each other's thoughts.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Well, as a buddy cop show, you got to have the buddies for the buddy cop show.
there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, what do we know more about Section 9? One of the things I find interesting about this series is about this episode is they fail effectively.
Yeah.
You know, now granted there's nothing they could do, but they're not heroes here. They're just doing the thing. They're in fact, you know, there was no need to kill him. He wouldn't have hurt anybody.
Yeah.
He was just trying to get back to his parents. You know, and obviously Section 9 didn't know that, but
Right.
it's interesting the implications of the fact that this is just an episode where they did their best. They made the best decisions they could given the information they had, and it just didn't work out in a heroic way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. Aramaki is sitting there badgering the guy, and just kind of going, "Hey, okay, yet again, you're not giving me enough information. Yet again, you're doing this. I
Yep.
can't physically come over there and strangle you until you give me the information.
Yeah.
But you're not helping." And then this is very important because Section 9, Aramaki's power is information, and he's not getting it.
Yep.
Right.
And I love the thing here where you realize what they're revealing is a thing that makes their tank useless. Right? That makes their
Yeah.
tank valueless in a sense. They knew they needed to develop this as a backdoor just in case, you know, safety measure. But as soon as people see this on the evening news, they know, oh well, that's all you need to take out the tank. So this, you know,
Right.
the $800 million they spent on the tank is now out the window, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
now you understand why they're reluctant to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for purposes of plot,
Yeah.
I found it very interesting the things that they addressed about stopping the tank, where you can't really hit it with a missile because it'll hack back and it'll stop you
Yep.
from launching. It'll blow yourself up. You can't do such and such. You know, they tried hitting it with the satellite assisted. No, it can adjust to that. They didn't like really address what got the tank. It wasn't the shells that, you know, it stopped it certainly, but it was a dumb fire weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're firing
Yep.
those shells without any kind of assistance to it, and just doing basically like dead aim, just
Yep.
firing down.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that could be stopped electronically,
Exactly.
which then kind of begged the question of like, you could have then run up with a Tachikoma and literally slap C4 on one of the legs. Because as
Right.
long as it didn't require some kind of digital connection, some kind of upload, you
Yeah.
could have done more things in a more catastrophic result. I mean,
Sure,
it would have been a big ass bang. But it's like, it's just this interesting idea that it's like all the cybernetic stuff, all the AI stuff, and it comes down to you really can do more damage dumb fire, just doing it
Right.
straight old school, much like Toga's. Is it Toga's the non-cybernetic?
Yeah.
Togusa.
Toga.
Yeah.
Toga says revolver is a very simple machine.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very simple human-driven
Yeah.
machine, and that seems to be like, okay, you're indicating to me that the more advanced the systems,
Yeah.
they don't ever escape the fact that something dumb with no AI assist and no technology assist can get the job done where
Yeah.
high tech cannot.
Yeah.
It's like,
So, to ride on your point, John, I wanted to point out, particularly, I'm glad you stopped on this scene, Brent. This is Ishikawa, and this is Aramaki,
Yeah.
the two oldest members of Section 9. Both of them, if you read the manga, have been prior military. Ishikawa is jacked because he's a hacker. That's what he does. But what is he doing right now?
Yeah.
Right? So that means he's like Liam Nielsen. I have a particular set of skills. He knew how to fire that. He knew how to aim it. He knew how to load it. He knew how to do it.
Yeah.
Aramaki was there for direction. And to your point, John, these are people who probably grew up as the digital things were being made.
True. Yep.
yeah,
So they understood your point. They were just like, oh, crap. All we need to do is just do the thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Just fire a gun at it. Yep.
Yeah.
we need a mechanical device. We don't need a digital device.
I also like the irony that the two members of Section 9 that are the most information heavy are the ones who came out at the end and just shot a gun at it. Basically,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
That used the
Yeah.
least information in that moment. Yeah. Interesting episode. And also cool because of the combination of things. Like, obviously, a much more action-y episode than the first one. Because it's a little bit more of a disaster movie, if you will.
Yeah.
Just, what do we do about this thing? But then they twist the end to give you this sentimental, so melodramatic ending. So it's not just, well, we blew up the tower and so everyone was saved.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, also for the actiony sequences, we only have some very it's sprinkled in.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? You didn't have a long Tachikoma duel where all
True.
6 of them are all around. They're just firing at it constantly. There's just shell casings everywhere. It resolves itself in just very sprinkled violence, if you will.
And actually, the number of Tachicomas is a great point. Screenwriting books would tell you need to get through all the Tachikomas down to the last ones, right? You need to show how dangerous it is by destroying all of your... No, it takes out one of them. There are more in reserve because that's real. Like, that's the situation you'd be in. That's the kind of, real environment that, okay, well, that's why we have spares.
Right.
We learned our lesson when the first one just got totally screwed apart. That no matter what the strategy, the Tachikomas were not going to be the answer.
Yeah, exactly. But, and actually, to that further point, once it got closer, we do different things, right? Now we start. I don't know where we can find the shot, but they use the
Strings.
The strings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's try that, and that does slow it down for a while. Gotcha. So even though the Tachikomas can't take it down, they can still be useful. So we keep it along. Yeah. Interesting stuff. I also appreciate for an episode that is introducing Tachikoma, they don't overdo it. We get the initial sequence where you get a sense of their personality, the sense that they like the natural oil, and then just their banter throughout the episode. But this could very easily have had a sequence where the Tachikoma are thinking, wow, what does this mean for me? Like, a tank got destroyed, I'm kind of a tank. No.
Yeah.
Not relevant. So.
It's my brother Tank. What do I do? How do I personally feel about this?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Now we basically got a toaster with a depression syndrome.
Yeah. Exactly.
Marvin the robot from
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Hitchhikers.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts on this episode?
It was enjoyable to see all the mechanical fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always enjoyed this episode for the the callback to the movie, obviously.
Yeah.
The introduction of the Tachikomas, and you just realize oh, they're so cute, and oh wow, they do things.
Yeah.
Okay, and Bato has an affinity for one of them.
That's true. That's a great
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's pointing out, and look at what Bato's saying to the guy who's saying, well, we've all specified designs to them, and they're
Yeah.
all basically the same thing. And Bato's just like, oh, what's the fun in that? Of course, I like this one. I'm gonna give it some natural oil. Here you
Exactly.
go.
Yeah. Totally. No,
Like a
there's
pet Tachikoma.
yeah, 100%. Which gets to the themes of this series, right? Like, what makes humans humans? And
Right.
part of it is that preference for certain things, even though they're technically identical. Not to mention the reality of, if you've ever had multiple computers, I remember hearing about a guy who ran a computer lab, and he said, "We will get in, 10 PCs with the exact same specs, and immediately they all act differently."
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
So it is kind of funny there.
Well, it's a very human response to,
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys do or not, but do you have a favorite spoon?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're all spoons. They do spooning. It's a thing that they do. But like humanity has this odd proclivity to like, it's the spoon that I just feel the best with. So it's like it feels like Bato's like that. The Tachikomas, they're the same color, the same kind of AI personality. It's like, no, I just like that one.
Yeah.
So here's some natural oil. Any reason? It's just
Yeah.
part of being a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the implication of, the Tachikoma seem to like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And does that have benefits to the idea that you are conveying something, that favoritism, if you will, so that specialness to the tank will then react differently. They may like you more. It's neat.
Yeah.
That's why people name their car and do certain things for their cars. It's like if I do a nice thing for the car, it'll do something nice for me. It's like
It'll continue to run.
Yeah, it's not a result that makes any kind of connective sense in a rational, logical universe.
Yep.
However, that's part of being a flesh pod that we are. Is
Yep.
we do things that are illogical.
And
Go
ahead.
ahead. So two things to point out one about the Tachikoma and something else. The first thing is that in this screenshot, look at the cannon on the front. What's on it?
A hand.
All I see are the manipulators.
Not the manipulators, but the cannon in the center. It's a cover.
Oh, is that what that?
It's a cover.
That's
It's
what that is?
yeah, that's a cannon, and so they're not loaded. Why are they not loaded? Because they have semi-independent thought and going it through there. So those are things that they cannot take off themselves.
Good point.
Oh.
So
I was wondering what that thing was underneath.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
so they cannot fire with that thing on there, or if
Interesting.
they're even loaded. So I would assume they're not loaded,
Yeah.
but that is their safety, so to speak.
Interesting point.
So that so that's kind of an interesting thought of like, oh yeah, these things will do what we tell them to do, blah blah blah. Just put those on there,
Yeah.
just in case, in case. The second thing is that one of the things about this episode that I really enjoy, even though it just only touches on it really kind of briefly, is the whole aspect of religion. It doesn't tell you what religion it is. It doesn't tell you exactly, we don't know the dogma behind it, whatever. We just know enough that there was a religion-based thing that was causing this issue.
Yep.
Not that it's the fault of the religion, it's just that was part of it. Right. And, it's something that you don't get in a lot of anime, where it's just kind of like,
Absolutely right.
hey, this person is doing these things because of this religion that he was going through. And that's one of the things I like about Ghost in the Shell, like I was talking about the last time about the gates, and then having that connection that goes centuries past to beliefs and these kinds of things. So that and then causes a kind of a thought of, here's this heavily digitized society now where most people have some level of cybernization. It might be very slight, but there's something there, like Togusa. But there are very few people who are like this, who are just basically, no, We're not doing that.
Yep.
You know, this is how we want to live, and this is what we believe, and this is how we're going to go forward.
Yep.
And I think it's, you know, having that in a time where we're just assuming everybody has some type of cybernization, this kind of thing, and people live for longer because of better health and blah blah blah. And then here's suddenly this religion, like we have real religions that say, no, we don't do blood transfusions. We don't believe in that. We don't believe in vaccines, or you know, some religions, people who have certain faiths like that don't believe
the
in
Amish, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so, you know, here you have this, and then you're just like, well, you live in this heavily industrial society and blah, 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 blah. No, people like this exist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is not something that's going to go away. It might be toned down, but it's not going away. So you do have to deal with it.
Well, and to your point, I love the fact that it is just a factor of the episode, right?
Right.
They don't come in and say these people are wrong or dumb.
Right.
They don't come in and say anything about that. This is just what, and we see they live along with everyone else. Like they're, you know, they're not suffering apparently from their religious beliefs. That's just how they've chosen to live their lives. And so it allows us as an audience to think about it, you know, to to think, what are the implications of that? What, you know, is that right or wrong, or what are the, you know, where does that go?
And this episode does a really good job of setting it up towards the end, because at first, you know, you're having Togusa saying, "Oh, he hates his parents so much. He hates them. Hates them." And really, that's not it.
Nope.
Because he comes up to this, and you realize at the end of it, you kind of realize that he's just like, "Hey, this is what it looks like when I'm not part of the religion. What do you think?"
Yeah. Well, and you know, I would argue, you know, the idea is he knows he's dying.
Right.
He knows he's not going to survive. But his passion is all of these, you know, machines. And he wants to show them how amazing these machines are. Right.
And look at what she's holding.
Yeah.
And they had beside the shrine.
Mm-hmm.
What's the thing? So they were proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also the religious aspect is, once I die, put my brain in.
Mm-hmm.
So he waited to cross the threshold.
Right.
Yeah.
That he didn't have any augmentation while he was still technically alive.
He was still practicing the thing. And actually, to that point, the only factor apparently of this religious belief is, you know, nothing, no cyberization of the body, not anti-technology.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
It's an interesting point. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think that covers episode 2 very well. Curious to see, again, very standalone episodes here in terms of plot. We're pretty well tied off this one. So curious to see if episode 3 goes into, you know, broader elements, or if it's just a single episode.
Well, it does address the broader idea now of how each piece of the puzzle fits in, because we've had if something goes wrong, these people deny, those people deny.
True.
And Section 9 might get hung up for it. So it's so it's not just inter-agency rivalry. It's like, you run the risk of people hanging you out to dry fully.
Yeah. Great point.
Like, what does that mean for an agency as part of a larger governmental organization?
Yeah. Yep.
And on a side note, I think this is the first time I've seen a Tachikoma tire.
Oh yeah, right there.
Look at that. Yeah.
Pop right out. Cool.
Yes. Ghost in the Shell. Yay.
Welcome back. I hope you found that useful. Quick update. The bookcases are all set up downstairs. We're all good to go there. There's manga on the shelves. But while they were rearranging, Sarah found this, which she brought to me. It appears to be literally a physical bug. And it's been tapped into the system and recording this whole time. Not sure whether I want to smash it or cut it open, but what does the hacker want? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see where this develops. Watch more anime.